My family claimed they were too broke to celebrate my birthday, only to throw my sister a lavish party shortly after. But when a local college decided to honor me, they all came crawling back, desperate for a piece of the spotlight they never thought I'd find. I'm Mason Carter, and at 24 years old, I'm a certified welder, the very first person in my family to complete a vocational program and build a career with my own two hands. You might think that accomplishment would earn a proud nod or at least a firm handshake. You would be wrong. The day I passed my final certification exam, the text I received from my mother read, "Oh, that is cool. Please let us know if you need a new lunchbox," complete with a smiling emoji. In their eyes, I was perpetually stuck in the past, the awkward kid who forgot to RSVP to his own high school prom, not the man who could now design and fabricate a structural support beam in under 30 seconds. My sister, Amelia, on the other hand, could earn a standing ovation for simply sneezing. 2 years my junior, 4 shades blonder, and blessed with that effortless star student charisma my parents inhaled like second-hand smoke. Growing up, her bedroom shelf groaned under the weight of participation trophies and academic awards. My dresser drawer was stuffed with receipts from part-time jobs, a testament to my contributions for groceries, gas money, and steel-toed boots that I bought myself. She was enrolled in expensive dance classes. By the time I was 15, I was wielding a mop on weekends at Smiley's car wash, scrubbing grime off other people's cars. This wasn't a story of jealousy. It was a story of slow, painful erosion, one overlooked moment at a time. When my 18th birthday arrived, my mother made a somber announcement at the dinner table. "We are skipping gifts this year. Budgeting is just too tight." I understood. But just 2 months later, Amelia was treated to a full-blown Sweet 16 extravaganza, complete with a flowing chocolate fountain and an inflatable bounce house. A bouncy house for a 16-year-old. I never told them when I got my first welding certification at 16, an achievement I earned after 3 grueling years of night classes and double shifts at a local garage. To celebrate, I just bought myself a burger and fries, sat alone in the quiet of my work van, and let the silence be my reward. At least Ratchet, my scruffy rescued mutt, wagged his tail with enough enthusiasm to make me feel like I'd just won the lottery. So, when Amelia's college graduation day approached, I didn't expect a big deal to be made of my absence. I wasn't even holding out for a medium-sized bargain. What I witnessed instead, through the curated lens of social media, was a 5-act theatrical production with a catered buffet. Jake, our cousin with a perpetually backward baseball cap and a podcast nobody listened to, posted an entire slideshow on Instagram. The captions read like a breathless press release. "Amelia made it. We are so proud of our valedictorian queen." And there they all were in the photos, a perfect portrait of a happy family. Mom, Dad, Aunt Linda, Uncle Peter, and even Great-Aunt Ruth, whose last confirmed public appearance was sometime in 2014. They were all clinking champagne glasses in the manicured garden, sporting matching custom t-shirts, using monogrammed napkins, and standing beside a cake that was taller than the refrigerator in my tiny apartment. I blinked, scrolled through the images again, and waited. The text from my mother finally came through hours later. "We will celebrate yours later, Red Heart. I'm really proud of you. Number 1, no phone call. Just the classic, empty promise of a later that would never materialize. I glanced down at my cracked phone screen, sitting alone in my studio apartment located above a noisy hardware store, Ratchet snoring beside me like a furry gremlin in his worn-out dog bed. The spaghetti I'd microwaved for dinner had long gone cold. I didn't want their glitter or their towering cake. I just wanted, for once, to be seen. The following morning, I pulled on my grease-stained work boots, scarfed down a breakfast burrito, and headed out the door to work. We were short a man on the crew, so I ended up working the entire shift on a major industrial pipe job, welding tirelessly through suffocating heat and acrid metal fumes. It was exhausting, bone-wearying work, but it made sense. Unlike my family, metal and fire were predictable. 3 weeks drifted by. There was no follow-up call, no "hey, let's celebrate now" text. Not even a simple "how's work" from anyone. It was as if I had become allergic to their group conversations. Then, one afternoon, Jake appeared unannounced at my workplace. He didn't call or text. He just rolled up in his beat-up Toyota, sunglasses perched on his head as if he were directing a gritty documentary. I was in the middle of loading heavy metal rods into the truck bed when he sauntered over. "Dude, you're not going to believe who I just got a call from." I wiped a stream of sweat from my brow with the back of my glove and gave him the same deadpan look I reserve for a piece of failing soldering equipment. This had better not be about a podcast episode. He grinned, a flash of white teeth. "Nope, it's about you." And that's when everything started to shift. I squinted at Jake, the afternoon sun suddenly feeling suspicious. "You're telling me someone asked you to talk to me?" "Technically, they asked if you would be available," Jake clarified, raising his eyebrows as if that distinction mattered. "But yeah, basically." I folded my arms, my sweat-soaked shirt clinging to my chest, and leaned against the truck's tailgate. Ratchet, whom I sometimes brought to the job site, lifted his head from his shady spot under the trailer, as if he, too, was bracing for a letdown. "Okay, spit it out," I said. "Am I being drafted into the army or kidnapped for a reality show?" Jake looked almost giddy, a man relishing his role as the messenger. "So this guy I know, Victor, he is on the board of the technical college downtown. They're launching this new trades campaign, some slogan like 'Build the Future,' and they're looking for real people to feature. Real graduates who came up through the grind, not some corporate guy in a suit holding a clipboard, pretending he knows what a rivet gun is." I blinked slowly. "And you gave them my name?" "Well, I showed them that video on your Instagram, the one where you were fixing that burst water line in the middle of a downpour. You looked like a welding god or something." "That wasn't rain," I mumbled, remembering the miserable day. "That was a burst sewer pipe." I had bronchitis for a week after that. Exactly. Real grit. They loved it. "They want to meet with you, said your story is authentic. They are tired of featuring white-collar execs holding blueprints. They want the guy who actually builds the thing." I stared at him, then glanced over my shoulder as if expecting to find another mason standing behind me, a more important one. "Wait," I said, my voice dry. "Let me guess. They are offering me exposure, right? And maybe a coupon for a free pizza." Jake actually laughed. "No, dude. There is a stipend, like $2,000. Plus, they will feature you in all the college's advertisements, on posters, online, and maybe even on a billboard if they get the budget approved." The words didn't quite register. My inner monologue, however, kicked into high gear. They wanted to put my name out there, literally, in public, which was ironically the one thing my own family had never done. I looked down at my scuffed, grease-stained boots. Behind me, the clatter of tools continued as the other guys finished loading up. The whole idea felt absurd. Me, the perennial afterthought at every holiday dinner, being asked to be the face of something important. "What's the catch?" I asked, my tone half joking, half deadly serious. "No catch. They just want to meet you first, see if you are comfortable on camera. You just share your story, maybe let them get some shots of you welding, talk about your journey. You know, show people that not every success story involves wearing a tie." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached for my thermos, took a long swig of lukewarm coffee, and thought about my own graduation. Just me, standing alone in a half-empty auditorium, holding a rolled-up certificate. No one had cheered my name. And now, a group of complete strangers wanted to put my face on a billboard. I cleared my throat. "Fine," I said. "I will go to the meeting. But if this turns into a pyramid scheme for selling toolboxes to grandmothers, I will personally weld your car doors shut." Jake beamed as if he'd just successfully pulled off a magic trick. "Deal. And trust me, man, this is going to be massive." The meeting took place 2 days later at the community college's main campus building. I had never set foot in it before. My welding program was housed across town in a renovated warehouse that permanently smelled of rust, sweat, and achievement. This place had fancy espresso machines and potted ferns. Jake had to coach me not to show up in my work clothes. I wore my only pair of clean slacks and the nicest polo shirt I owned, which still had a faint bleach stain on one sleeve. I walked into that conference room feeling like a construction worker who'd stumbled into a yacht club, but they greeted me like I was the keynote speaker. The campaign coordinator, a sharp woman named Naomi, asked thoughtful questions. Victor, the board member, already knew half my story, thanks to Jake. They asked about my long shifts, my training, and what I wished more people understood about skilled trades. I didn't sugarcoat a thing. I told them about working late nights, about choosing tools over textbooks, and about hearing my sister get standing ovations for academic honors I didn't even know existed while I was busy patching up rusted-out plumbing in a basement that smelled of damp carpet and regret. They just listened. When I was finished, Naomi smiled warmly and said, "We would be honored to feature you." That night, I sat in my quiet apartment with Ratchet curled at my feet. I stared at the official email they'd sent, confirming the campaign timeline. One sentence leaped out at me. "We will be revealing the campaign at the summer commencement ceremony." My stomach did a slow, heavy flip. Summer commencement. The very same ceremony my cousin Jake was graduating from. The very same ceremony my entire family was planning to attend for someone else. But this time, it wouldn't be about them. It would be about me. I almost backed out on the first day of filming. I showed up with engine oil still stained under my fingernails. Naomi just smiled and told me it was great for authenticity, holding a clipboard as the cameraman set up his equipment beside a massive stack of steel beams. They filmed me welding, sweating, grinding through a shower of sparks, and talking about things I had never said out loud before. Like how I used to sneak back into the house after 3 a.m. in high school after working janitorial shifts, carefully stepping over the creaky floorboards to avoid waking anyone. Or how my father once told everyone at a family dinner that I was just taking a gap year, when in reality, I was working 60 hours a week hauling lumber on a construction site. The film crew didn't interrupt. There were no phony looks of pity, just quiet nods and genuine listening. Naomi also had me do a sit-down interview. There was no script, no rehearsal, just direct questions like, "What kept you going?" "And what do you wish people knew about this path?" I answered honestly. I just wanted to be useful even if no one was applauding. It was a necessity. The camera didn't blink. Neither did Naomi. Then came the question that caught me completely off guard. "Does your family know you are a part of this campaign?" I swallowed hard. "Not really," I admitted. "They know I work, but I do not think they know I am proud of it." She gave me a soft, knowing smile and jotted something down on her notepad. "They will." Over the next week, they filmed more. My workshop, the worn-out boots by my front door, Ratchet wagging his tail like a four-legged mascot. They even captured a stunning time-lapse of me fabricating a custom metal railing I had designed from scratch. The whole experience felt less like a commercial shoot and more like a strange form of therapy, as if I had spent my entire life being written in quiet, lowercase letters, and now someone was finally writing my name in bold. But I didn't tell anyone. Not my mother, not my father, and definitely not Amelia. It wasn't exactly out of spite. It was more that I didn't want to give them the chance to diminish it, which I knew they would. If I told them I was going to be featured at a commencement ceremony, they'd probably say, "Oh, how nice for that little trade thing." If I mentioned the billboard, the response would be, "Really? You are not joking, are you?" So I said nothing. I let them plan for Jake's graduation as if it were another family coronation. I let them coordinate their pastel outfits and draft captions about legacy and future leaders. Meanwhile, I kept showing up to work, taking calls from Naomi, approving headshots, checking quotes, and watching as my name transformed from a subject line in an email to a flyer mock-up to a full-sized banner design. Naomi called one afternoon to go over the final details. "We are revealing the new Build the Future campaign at the opening of the commencement ceremony. Your face will be on the main screen during the introduction, along with your quote." I paused. "What quote?" She laughed. "The one you gave us. The part about wanting to be useful, even if nobody clapped." It hit really hard in editing. You will see. The night before the ceremony, a group text from my mom lit up my phone. "So excited for Jake's big day tomorrow. Everyone remember to wear blue," followed by a cheerful emoji. I stared at the message for a long time. Blue. The same color shirt I was wearing when I moved out on my own, the day I skipped my own graduation ceremony and ate drive-through tacos alone in a parking lot. I thought about replying with a simple, "See you there," but I held back. Not yet. I just smiled to myself, powered off my phone, laid out my cleanest pair of pants, polished my work boots until they shone, and printed out the email from Naomi that contained my official event badge and parking pass. This time I wasn't sneaking in the back door. This time I had an invitation. The morning of the ceremony, I arrived early, far too early. The auditorium lobby smelled of cheap cologne and fresh diploma covers. Staff members were still taping signs to folding tables, arranging name tags, and doing microphone checks. Naomi spotted me and waved me over, handing me a laminated badge with my name on it. Just my name, not Amelia's brother, not +1. Simply Mason Carter in bold letters. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. Born ready, I quipped, then immediately panicked and added, sure, I guess." She laughed and handed me a small, sealed envelope. "After your feature plays, we are going to bring you backstage. The dean wants to have a quick word to thank you. They are adding your quote to the main college website." I almost dropped it. "What, like permanently?" "Yep," she said, "with your photo right next to it." I slid the envelope into my jacket pocket as if it were made of solid gold. Around 9, 8:45 a.m., the crowds began to pour in. Parents in their Sunday best, friends clutching bouquets of flowers. Every fourth person seemed to be carrying balloons. I found a seat near the back, not hiding but observing. Naomi had told me they'd be bringing me up after the video anyway, so I might as well enjoy the show from a distance. At 10:02, I spotted them, my family. Mom was dressed in her usual modest church glam dress, complete with her pearl necklace. Dad was wearing a blazer I hadn't seen since his failed run for the HOA board. And Amelia, her hair perfectly curled, was holding an iced latte like it was a royal scepter. They didn't see me, not that they were looking for me. They found seats much closer to the front, 2 rows behind the graduates. Jake was nearby, taking selfies as if he were the headliner at Coachella. He pointed at the large Welcome Graduates banner hanging over the stage and said something that made Amelia laugh so hard she nearly spilled her drink. I just watched, and for a fleeting moment, I felt that old familiar pit in my stomach, the one that always whispered, "This is not your crowd. This is not your day." Then the house lights dimmed, and everything changed. A single spotlight hit the stage. The announcer, a faculty member with a voice made for morning radio, welcomed everyone to the summer commencement ceremony. As we honor this year's graduates, we want to take a moment to spotlight the stories that do not always make the front page. The quiet triumphs, the unsung builders, the hands that are literally shaping our world. My spine went rigid. Today, the narrator's voice continued. We launch our new campaign, Build the Future, featuring someone who reminds us all what true determination looks like, especially when nobody is watching. The giant screen behind the stage flickered to life, music swelled, and then there was my face. Not a selfie, not a grainy phone picture. It was a clear, cinematic shot of me welding in slow motion, sparks erupting like fireworks, my eyes focused and intense behind my mask. And beneath the image, my quote appeared in stark white letters. I just wanted to be useful, even if no one clapped. A hush fell over the entire auditorium. Then more clips rolled. The time-lapse of me building the railing, footage of me fixing that burst pipe in the pouring rain, a close-up of me lifting my welding mask, my brow glistening with sweat. It cut to the interview footage of me talking about working night jobs in high school, explaining how trade school was never my backup plan. It was the plan. The video ended with the campaign's tagline, Build the Future. In every way that matters. When the lights came back up, there was a beat of stunned silence, and then applause erupted. Big, genuine, rolling applause. People started turning in their seats. A staff member walked to the front and spoke into a microphone. "William Carter, could you please stand?" I stood up, my nerves kicking like a mule in my chest, but I stood. Across the auditorium, I saw my cousin Jake's mouth literally hanging open. My father leaned over to my mother, his expression a mixture of confusion and disbelief. And Amelia just stared at me as if I were a complete stranger who had just photobombed her graduation party. The applause kept going. People who had never met me were applauding. My own family just stared, frozen. As I made my way to the aisle, Naomi caught my eye and gave me a subtle, triumphant smirk. "Your family had no idea, did they?" she whispered as I passed. "Nope," I said. "Damn," she murmured, almost proudly. "That is one hell of a reveal." Backstage smelled of coffee, fresh paper, and the faint, nervous tang of sweat. I followed Naomi down a cramped corridor bustling with event staff. Someone gave me a thumbs up. Another handed me a bottle of water with a wink, as if I had just won an Olympic medal. I don't think I'd ever received so many congratulations in my entire life, let alone in the span of a single minute. We stepped into a side room where the dean, a tall, silver-haired man with a voice like smooth gravel, shook my hand firmly, as if I were a returning war hero. "Mason Carter," he said with a warm smile. "It is an honor to finally meet the face of our future." I wanted to correct him, to say I was just a welder who happened to stand in front of a camera, but instead, I just nodded and said, "Thanks." "This means a lot." He handed me a framed copy of the campaign poster with my quote and name printed proudly under the headline. "We are hanging this in the main hallway for the fall semester," he told me. "We have already had students asking about the welding program because of you." I was speechless. "Seriously?" He smiled. "Your story matters, son. Never forget that." 15 minutes later, I slipped back out into the lobby. The ceremony was still in full swing, with names being called out alphabetically. But the hallway was already crowded with early leavers, bored siblings, and parents desperate for caffeine. I saw Amelia standing near the exit, looking like a glitch in the Matrix. She was alone, clutching her now-empty iced latte cup and staring at a promotional poster they'd mounted on a display board. My poster. She didn't look up as I stopped a few feet away. "Looks better in print, doesn't it?" I said casually. She turned her head slowly. For a moment, her face was a perfect, unreadable mask, that poised magazine cover calm she always wore. Then it cracked just a little, letting a single question slip through. "You did not tell anyone?" "Nope." She blinked. "Why?" I shrugged, a gesture that felt both light and incredibly heavy. I figured it was just a trade thing, nothing worth making a toast over. Amelia opened her mouth, then closed it again, her jaw tightening. She looked back at the poster. "I did not know you were doing stuff like this, because you never asked." The words were simple fact, not an accusation, and they seemed to land with more force. "I always thought you were just like doing okay," she said, her voice quiet. I said. "But this. You are on a giant screen, in front of everybody." "Yeah, weird, right?" A strange sound escaped her, not quite a laugh and not quite a sigh. Then, without looking at me, she said, "Mom looked like she saw a ghost." I'm surprised she did not try to claim I photoshopped it. That actually made me chuckle. A quiet, almost guilty sound. We stood there in silence for a moment. Not as adversaries, but not quite as siblings either. Just as two people who grew up in the same house but had apparently lived in completely different worlds. I didn't mean to make it a thing. I told her honestly. "You didn't," Amelia replied, finally meeting my eyes. "We did." I nodded slowly. "Anyway," she continued, fidgeting with her cup, "it was cool. You looked like you." It was probably the most genuine compliment she had ever given me. I wasn't even sure what to do with it, so I just mumbled, "Thanks." As I started to walk past her, I caught a movement out of the corner of my eye. My parents were loitering near the vending machines, talking in hushed tones, checking their phones, and occasionally glancing up at the poster as if it had personally offended them. They didn't approach me, they didn't wave, they just stood there in their awkward little huddle. And for the first time in my life, their silence didn't make me feel small. It made me feel solid. They could have walked over. They could have said congratulations or "We are so proud of you." But they didn't. And I realized I didn't need them to. I had something better now. I had proof and I had peace. By the time I got back to my apartment, my phone looked like it had been used as a punching bag by the notification gods. I had 38 unread texts, a dozen missed calls, and 3 new Instagram tags from people I hadn't spoken to since high school gym class. I was bracing for a few awkward, "wow, you clean up nice" messages. Instead, the first thing I opened was a direct message from Naomi. "Video is live. Already hit 9.2K views in the first hour. You killed it. Fire emoji." I clicked the link, and there I was. Mask down, welding torch in hand, molten sparks flying across the screen like fireflies in a summer storm. The comment section was more than just supportive. It was a wave of validation. "My brother needs to see this. This is what kids should be looking up to. He gets it. Real work, real story. I do not even weld and this hit hard." One comment simply read, "I hope his family is proud." That made my soul let out a dry, ironic laugh. Then came the tsunami from the family group chat. Family Time 18 members was lit up like a slot machine. "Mom, why did not Mason tell us about this? We were so surprised. Dad, just saw it. You looked respectable. Did not expect that level of polish. Amelia, you are kind of famous now, lol. Can I say I know you?" Then the extended family chimed in, reacting as if they'd just discovered Bigfoot camping in their backyard. "Uncle Peter, wait, is that our Mason in the college video? Aunt Linda, you should have told us. We would have clapped louder. Cousin Megan, OMG," I cried. My coworkers saw it too. And then, of course, my mother's piece de resistance. "We are planning a small dinner to celebrate you this weekend. Just family." Ah, yes, just family. The same esteemed group that had skipped my trade school graduation and had live-streamed Amelia's from the back of a rented party limousine. Now, suddenly, they were rolling out the red carpet for some takeout pizza and appetizers made of guilt. It was a hard pass. I didn't reply, not right away. Instead, I reshared the official campaign post Naomi had tagged me in, the one with my quote and the banner image. I added no caption, just a hammer emoji and a flame emoji. The likes started as a trickle, then became a steady stream, and finally a flood. Old classmates I hadn't spoken to in years, some of whom used to mock me for wearing work boots to school, were now reacting with fire and flexed biceps emojis. A guy I barely knew sent a DM. "Bro, I showed this to my dad. He said you speak for all of us." Another wrote, "You made welding look noble." Then, humorously, I got a message from my old high school chemistry teacher. "Mason, I always knew you would go far. Let me know if you would ever want to come speak to my class." I was tempted to reply, "You once called me a distraction with a wrench, but I let it go. Growth or something." Later that night, Amelia texted me separately. "So, are you doing more of these?" I replied simply, "They asked me to be on a panel next semester." A few minutes passed before she wrote back, "That is actually amazing. I think you found your thing." Then another message, "It is crazy. We never even realized." You never realized? No, they hadn't, because they had never looked. They were too busy applauding for caps and gowns to notice the guy in welding gloves working through the night. My mom messaged again before I went to bed. "Do not forget, we are planning for Sunday dinner for your big day. Please let us know if that works." It is funny how a little applause from strangers can suddenly remind people of your name and make them want to serve you dinner. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I muted the chat. I had one more thing to do before I slept. I opened the campaign video again. I watched the part where my voiceover played. All I wanted was to be useful, even if no one clapped. Then I said it out loud to no one in particular. Turns out they do clap eventually, after everyone else starts first. I wasn't actually planning on going to the dinner. But when Sunday rolled around, something inside me clicked. "Let them sit with it," a voice said. "Let them see you now. Not the version in their heads, but the real one." So I showed up. Clean jeans, a crisp black button-down shirt. Nothing flashy, just clean enough to be unrecognizable from the version of me they were used to ignoring. Ratchet stayed home. Even he didn't deserve that level of second-hand embarrassment. As I pulled into the driveway, the first thing I noticed was a sad little congratulations Mason banner hanging lopsidedly over the porch light. It was clearly a repurposed relic from Amelia's celebration. Same font, same colors. They'd just taped my name over hers. If you looked close enough, you could still see the faint outline of an A beneath the M classic. Inside, the house smelled of store-bought lasagna and anxiety. The whole clan was there. Mom, Dad, Amelia, Uncle Peter, and even Aunt Linda, who hadn't said more than 2 words to me since she caught me raiding the garage fridge for a soda when I was 12. They all smiled like actors who had just spotted the director sitting in the front row. Mom gave me a hug that felt more like a job interview. "Mason, look at you." "Yes, I know," I replied. I showered. Dad clapped me on the back a little too hard. "Big man on campus, huh?" It was not a campus, I corrected him calmly. It was a stage, but close. We sat down at the dining table. Paper plates, generic soda, and a grocery store cake with "You did it," scrawled in red icing, as if the baker had forgotten what exactly it was that I did. The awkwardness was thick enough to spread on toast. Then my mother raised her glass, a plastic cup of sparkling cider. To Mason, she chirped, "For making us so proud. We always knew you had it in you." Everyone grinned and raised their cups. Everyone but me. I just took a sip of water and said nothing. Because no, they didn't always know. They didn't know when I passed my certification exam. They didn't post pictures when I got my first full-time job. They didn't show up when I graduated from trade school with perfect attendance. They knew now, only because strangers were sharing my video and college deans were saying my name. As dinner trudged on, Aunt Linda tried to make conversation. "So, do you think you will be on more billboards?" "No idea," I said, "but I have 2 different crews asking about contract work." "Wow," she breathed, genuinely surprised. Amelia leaned forward. "That is impressive." "So, like, what do you actually build now?" I gave her a slow smile. "Turns out I am pretty good at making sparks fly." She rolled her eyes, but she didn't have a comeback. Towards the end of the meal, my dad finally asked the question he'd clearly been holding in. "So, what is next for you, son?" I wiped my mouth with a paper napkin, set my fork down, and looked at him directly. "I have got meetings lined up for a local business partnership, and I am thinking about opening my own fabrication shop by the winter." Dead silence. My mother blinked. "Your own what?" "A shop," I clarified. "Business license, client list, custom fabrication. You know, a real job." None of them laughed. No one even breathed. So I pushed my chair back from the table and stood up. "I appreciate the effort," I said, gesturing vaguely at the sad cake, "but I have got an early morning." Welding does not wait for anyone. I started for the door, but paused and looked back squarely at my mother. "You know," I said, a small, humorless smile on my face. "For Amelia's celebration, you had a live band. You could have at least hired someone with a trumpet for mine." And then I walked out. The look on their faces was more satisfying than any toast they could have ever offered. I heard nothing from the family for a week after that dinner. No follow-up texts. No "we are so proud of you" messages. The group chat was a ghost town, save for a few awkward emoji reactions and an unrelated picture of Aunt Linda's new puppy. But that Friday, the moment came. I was standing in the college lobby, waiting to meet Naomi about the upcoming panel discussion when Jake strode in, his camera bag slung over his shoulder, sunglasses on indoors like he was avoiding paparazzi. Our eyes met. He stopped, trying to look casual. "Hey man, big week, huh?" "Yeah," I said flatly. "Guess so. You really surprised some people." I let a small smile play on my lips. "You too. People did not expect you to be so quiet." He gave a nervous chuckle. "Yeah, well. See you around." And he kept walking. He didn't ask about the panel. He didn't mention the video, but I knew he'd seen it. They all had. Later that night, I got a notification. My cousin Jason, the one who filmed half of Amelia's graduation on his phone, had posted a selfie to Instagram. I clicked on it without thinking. He was standing in front of the college's main entrance hall. Behind him, massive and unmissable, was the new campaign banner. "Build the Future," featuring Mason Carter. And directly under my name was the quote, "I just wanted to be useful, even if no one clapped." In the photo's reflection on the glass doors, you could see me. Not posed, not intentional, just me, standing nearby with my hands in my pockets, looking up at the banner as if I still couldn't quite believe it was real. But it was Jason's caption that sealed it. Never thought I would see my name up there. No hashtags, no emojis, just raw, uncomfortable honesty. And that spoke louder than any toast ever could. Within an hour, other people started sharing it. Friends, old classmates, former teachers. A couple of my clients even sent me screenshots, asking if that was me in the banner. And the best part was, I didn't have to post a thing. I didn't have to explain. I didn't have to clarify. I didn't have to tag or humble brag. I just let them see it. Let them sit with it. Let them realize that I never needed a stage to be proud of my work. I just needed the space to build my own. And so I did. Quietly, completely, and without any need for applause. They can make all the toasts they want now. But I had already raised a glass to myself a long, long time ago.